Hey guys, what's up? You come to Final Trade for data, for math models, for objective analysis, for discussions of uncertainty and risk mitigation. And I try to present this channel as maybe the more mature end of the MTG finance spectrum. And today we're not going to do any of that. Today we're just going to engage in baseless speculation and conspiracy theory. So, in homage to Mason at Cardinal Gaming and his tinfoil fedora, I present to you the Final Trade tinfoil visor. You remember these obnoxious visors from the early 2000s? I looked through my closet seeing what kind of hats I owned, and this was about it. A couple baseball caps in this, and while I wouldn't be caught dead wearing a fedora, Mason, I still love you, but I do have this. So I covered it in tinfoil, and you might be saying, Craig, how can you possibly achieve the desired Faraday cage effect around your brain to deflect the government mind control rays when it's open in the center? And to that I respond, well, you have to make some sacrifices when you're dealing with this much processing power in a brain and the kind of heat it gives off. And so it's mostly for cooling that it's open on top. And the baseless conspiracy that I want to engage in today is a discussion of Rudy's video from last night about potentially the Doctor Who collector box print runs having been slashed. And in his video, he said that card store allocations are starting to come in from distribution, and it's appearing that they're getting 10-15% of what they've requested. Very, very small allocations compared to their requests. And of course, their requests are based on their history of what they think they can sell. And so, very, very skeptically, Rudy relayed the information that potentially the print runs have been slashed, that this may be the moment that WotC pivots. And Rudy himself was incredibly skeptical that that's it, that really we need to have more data, more information. We need to go further into the future and let more of reality be revealed to us before we say, yes, finally WotC has wised up and pivoted and slashed print run numbers like they needed to do in 2021. And I'm going to take the counter argument here. I'm going to say, based on nothing, that they have not slashed print run numbers. And my argument begins that essentially when they go to the printers and they say, we need to have you print this product for us, the printers will put them on contract and they will schedule out a block of time to print the product. And now WotC would have engaged in this months ago. Many months ago, they would have gone to the printer and negotiated the contract for creating the actual product that is the Doctor Who collector boxes. And WotC would have said, we want, and totally made up numbers, 200,000 collector boxes. We'll pretend that's it. And so the printers would have set up their schedule and worked around all the other TCGs that they print for and the other Magic products that they print. And they would have allocated time on the presses to print these Doctor Who collector boxes. And so you can't simply go forward in time and then suddenly this summer at some point when it got down to the wire and it was time to physically print the real product, call up the printers and say, oh, by the way, instead of having you use your press for 6 days to print this product for it, we want to order 1/4 as much, so it's going to be a day and a half. Because, of course, the problem for the printing company is that then they have a giant hole in their schedule and they're not ready with film and plates and proofs and everything else to slip something else into that slot. And they would have a whole bunch of hourly workers sitting around doing nothing. They would have a whole bunch of presses that are giant capital assets sitting idle, which you never want to do in a business. And so you can't simply walk up at the last minute and say, we are WotC, we will slash these numbers. And so initially I'm very skeptical that they even could reduce print run numbers close to printing. And of course, if you subscribe to the idea that they have reduced print run numbers on the Doctor Who collector boxes, then it means they must have figured out they needed to start reducing numbers months and months and months ago, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, which I think we're all kind of skeptical that they would have done. Eventually in the future they will, but not yet, probably. Now, what do I think is actually going to happen? Why do I think card stores are reporting that their allocations are 10, 15, 20% of what they're asking for? I think this is going to turn out to be exactly like Time Spiral Remastered. If we go all the way back to March or April maybe of 2021 when Time Spiral Remastered released. Remember, card stores were telling their distributors, we want 50 boxes, 100 boxes, 200 boxes of that draft product. And they came back and the distributor said, I guess you can have 5 and 10 and 15 boxes. And the allocations were very, very low compared to the requests. And of course, what we would find out down the road, weeks and months later, was that WotC had only released a very small amount of Time Spiral Remastered draft boxes into the normal distribution system to be given out to card stores, and the rest was getting dumped on Amazon. And now the beautiful part for WotC of this was that as soon as those very, very small allocations that card stores got dried up, the prices of the boxes started to rise. And so when WotC dumped them on Amazon, they were able to dump them at a beautiful premium to what they would normally sell for in a market that was functioning correctly. And so WotC made out like a bandit. Not only did they cut distributors and retailers out of the system, they dumped them on Amazon, and they dumped them at higher prices than normal retail would have been able to sell for. And so they cleaned up. And why do I think that Doctor Who collector boxes are the place where they would do this again? It's because the overlap in fan bases between Magic and Doctor Who is not going to be very strong. Imagine back with the Warhammer 40k Commander decks last year and the Lord of the Rings Universes Beyond expansion this past summer. The overlaps between fan bases of those and Magic were really good. Those are some of the best overlaps you could have. I mean, we're talking about people who are already gamers, they're already into high fantasy, into things like that, and so you would expect the overlap to be very good. But when it comes to Doctor Who, it's mostly a British phenomenon with it has a decent following in the US, but not nearly as large. And the type of people who watch it just don't overlap as well with the type of people who typically spend money on TCG products, and especially Magic. And so I think WotC is looking at the reality of that situation, and they're saying, how can we get more of those people to buy these boxes? Because these are not people who are generally going to be walking into local game stores. These are not people who are going to be going to tcgplayer.com and buying sealed products. And these may not even really be people who are going on eBay to look for these kind of things. But where might they shop? Amazon. Amazon will be a great place to catch those customers. And if WotC decides, let's hold back 80% of this product for ourselves, then we'll dump it by the pallet on Amazon, and we'll capture all those people that otherwise would have been kind of hard to find as customers. Well then, we can find those customers that we need who are not typically Magic players or TCG players at all, and we can get the product into their hand, and we can do it at these deliciously high prices and incredible margins. And that's what I think is going to happen with this. It's a particular product where that kind of path of the Time Spiral Remastered method of screwing card stores and distributors will work really great here. And of course, I think the fallout will be similar. I mean, if you look back in 2021, people were very angry with their local card stores. There were a lot of Timmies who don't understand how reality works, and they walk into their local card store a couple days after Time Spiral Remastered released, and they see one of two things. Either they see that the scant allocation the card store got already sold out, so they're angry because there's no product for them to buy, or they see that their card store smartly raised the price through the roof, so at least they can keep some on the shelf, and the customers who really want it the most can still get it, although at a higher price. And they were angry about the price then, but one way or another, they were angry at their local card store for something that WotC did. And the same thing will happen here to the extent that those fan bases between Doctor Who and Magic overlap, and players will come in, if for no other reason than for the modern and other format warping staple cards that will be put into Doctor Who. They'll want those, they'll come in to buy the collector boxes, and they'll encounter the same thing. Either the store is already sold out, or the prices are very high on the shelves in order to not sell out immediately. So, card stores will get the shaft from WotC once again. WotC will make out like a bandit, and that's it. That's my crazy baseless conspiracy based on nothing but, maybe we'll call it a little bit of history, but no real data, just what I think is likely to happen here. So, let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade. Join the Patreon.